Let me tell y'all something. Some folks don't need no lecture, no argument, no screaming match. No, no, no. See, the best way to let somebody know they messed up, silence. Silence is one of the most powerful responses a person can give. It holds weight, it carries meaning, and it can cut deeper than any words ever could. When someone disrespects you, their goal, whether they realize it or not, is to provoke a reaction. They want to shake you, get under your skin, and pull you into their chaos. But when you respond with silence, you flip the script entirely. Suddenly, they're left with nothing to feed off, no energy to steal, and no fuel to keep their fire going. That silence becomes deafening, and trust me, it's louder than any words you could throw back at them. People are wired to expect a back and forth exchange, especially in moments of conflict. Disrespect is often the game, and the rules say that when one person takes a shot, the other is supposed to shoot back. That's what they're ready for. That's what they're waiting on. But when you choose silence, you take away their power. You break the cycle. You don't play their game. And nothing is more frustrating to someone trying to provoke you than realizing they have no control over your reaction. Silence forces people to sit with what they've done. When you don't argue, explain, or defend yourself, the weight of their own words and actions falls back on them. It creates a void that they have to fill on their own, and that's when the discomfort sets in. They start replaying the situation in their head, wondering if they went too far, questioning why you haven't responded. It makes them second guess themselves, and that's exactly where the real lesson happens. It's easy for someone to justify their behavior when they get the response they were expecting, but when they're met with silence, they're forced to confront themselves. The power of silence is also rooted in discipline and self-control. Anyone can react. Anyone can lash out, argue, or try to prove a point. But it takes real strength to hold back, to recognize that not every battle is worth fighting, and to understand that your energy is too valuable to waste on someone who doesn't deserve it. Responding with silence doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're wise enough to know when to walk away. It means you're secure enough in yourself that you don't need to prove anything to anyone. Silence isn't about running away from confrontation or avoiding difficult conversations. It's about knowing when words will be useless. Some people don't need an explanation. They don't need to hear how they hurt you, because deep down, they already know. Addressing them, arguing with them, or trying to make them see your side only gives them another opportunity to twist the situation. But silence, that leaves them with nothing but themselves. In a world where people are always looking for attention, where arguments and drama are entertainment, silence is a weapon. It stands out. It makes an impact. It leaves people wondering, questioning, and most importantly, reflecting. Words can be twisted, but silence speaks for itself. People are conditioned to expect a reaction. It's human nature. When they do something, they want to see what happens next. They want to know they had an impact, that their words or actions stirred something in you. It's like a cause and effect game, and they assume you'll play along. When someone disrespects you, they are testing your response. They're expecting anger, frustration, maybe even a long explanation of why they were wrong. They're looking for that emotional reaction because it reassures them that they still have access to your energy. When you give them what they expect, you validate their actions. You confirm that they still hold some level of power over you. They get the satisfaction of seeing you flustered, seeing you react exactly the way they predicted. That's why they do it in the first place. People who thrive on disrespect, manipulation, and control don't just act out for no reason. They do it because they know it gets a response. They rely on it, it fuels them, it keeps them feeling important and in control. But when you don't respond, when you refuse to give them what they're looking for, you throw them off balance. It disrupts their entire plan. They don't know what to do next because they were prepared for a fight, an argument, or even an emotional plea. But what they weren't prepared for was silence. That silence makes them uncomfortable because it forces them to sit with their own actions. They start wondering why you didn't respond, why you didn't fight back, why you didn't try to prove them wrong. And that's when they begin to feel the weight of what they did. Some people push your buttons just to confirm that they can. They test your patience, cross boundaries, and poke at your emotions to see if you'll react the way they want you to. When you do, it reassures them that they still have influence over you. They know exactly how to get a rise out of you, and that makes them feel powerful. But when you don't give in, when you don't react the way they expect, you take that power away. Suddenly, they don't have control over you anymore, and that shakes them. People expect an argument when they're being disrespectful. They expect you to match their energy, to go back and forth, to defend yourself, to try and make them understand your side. But the reality is, most people who disrespect you aren't looking for understanding. They're not interested in seeing your point of view. They just want the conflict because that's where they thrive. When you realize this, you stop feeling the need to explain yourself. You stop feeling the need to respond at all. When you remove your reaction, you shift the dynamic completely. The person who thought they were in control now has to deal with the silence, the lack of attention, the absence of the energy they were expecting, and that's when they start to feel the consequences of their own actions. They don't get the satisfaction of seeing you upset, of seeing you affected. Instead, they're left wondering, questioning, and sometimes even regretting what they did. They expect you to fight. They expect you to plead your case. They expect you to react emotionally. But when you do none of that, when you simply remove yourself from the equation, you force them to sit with the reality of what they did. You take away their ability to manipulate, to push, to control. And that silence, that lack of reaction, is far more powerful than anything you could ever say. It is in that silence that regret often begins to form. At first, they might not recognize it. They might try to brush it off, convince themselves they were in the right, or even pretend not to care. But the more time that passes, the more that silence starts to eat at them. They replay the moment in their head, analyzing what they said and how they acted. Without your reaction to distract them, they are forced to confront the reality of their own actions. That discomfort, that weight, that realization, it all starts to settle in. People don't always recognize their mistakes in the heat of the moment. When emotions are high and words are flying, it's easy to stay in a defensive mindset. But when things go quiet, when there's no more arguing, no more explanations, no more engagement, that's when they are left to deal with themselves. The silence becomes a mirror, reflecting back everything they tried to ignore. They might not admit it right away, but deep down they start to feel it. It's not about revenge or manipulation. It's not about trying to make them feel bad. It's simply about removing yourself from a situation where your energy is being disrespected. It's about understanding that your words won't always change people, but your absence might make them realize what they took for granted. Some people don't truly appreciate what they had until it's gone, and silence has a way of making that reality sink in faster than any argument ever could. Silence is uncomfortable for those who know they were wrong. It lingers in the spaces where words once were, pressing on their conscience in a way they can't escape. It forces them to think, to question, to reconsider. While an argument might give them something to fight against, silence gives them nothing but themselves. And when they are left alone with their own thoughts, that's when the weight of their actions becomes impossible to ignore. Some people feed off your energy. They live for your reactions, your emotions, and your attention. When they disrespect you, they aren't always doing it out of ignorance or accident. Many times, they do it intentionally because they know it will get a rise out of you. They know exactly what to say, what to do, and how to push your buttons just enough to make you engage with them. To them, your reaction is like fuel. It keeps them going. It reassures them that they still have access to your emotions, and it makes them feel important. There are people who thrive in chaos. They stir up drama, create conflict, and look for ways to disrupt your peace, not because they have a real issue, but because they crave the energy that comes from a confrontation. They feel powerful when they can get you upset. They feel in control when they can shift your focus onto them. The moment they see you frustrated, arguing, or trying to prove a point, they know they've succeeded in pulling you into their mess. When you respond to their disrespect, you give them exactly what they want. You validate their need for attention. Even if you're angry, even if you're standing up for yourself, you are still feeding them with your energy. You are letting them dictate your emotions, control your response, and take up space in your mind. And for people like that, it doesn't matter whether your reaction is positive or negative. All that matters is that you gave them a reaction at all. The best way to take away their power is to refuse to engage. When you don't respond, when you don't argue, when you don't give them the emotional energy they were hoping for, you leave them with nothing. You cut off their supply. And that frustrates them more than anything else. They start to feel the emptiness of their own behavior. Without your reaction to feed on, they are left alone with their own negativity. Silence is the ultimate way to show someone they don't have control over you. When you refuse to respond, you send a clear message. You do not have access to my energy. You do not have the power to dictate how I feel. You do not get to pull me into your chaos. That kind of self-control is something that manipulative people can't stand. They want you to lose your temper. They want you to argue with them. They want you to feel the need to explain yourself. But when you remain calm and unbothered, they start to realize that they don't have the influence over you that they thought they did. Some people will push you just to see if they can. They will test your patience, challenge your boundaries, and poke at your emotions, not because they need an actual response, but because they want to see if they still have access to you. When you show them that they don't, when you remove yourself from their games, they are forced to sit with the fact that they no longer have the power they once did. That realization is uncomfortable for them. Not everyone deserves your energy. Not everyone deserves a response. Some people don't argue in good faith. They argue just to keep you engaged with them. They disrespect you not because they believe what they're saying, but because they want to see you react. When you recognize this, you stop feeling the need to prove yourself. You stop feeling the need to respond at all. Because the truth is, when you refuse to give them your energy, they have nothing left to feed on. Silence is not weakness. It is one of the strongest displays of self-control and wisdom. Many people believe that speaking up, defending themselves, or proving a point is the best way to handle disrespect, but sometimes silence is the most powerful response you can give. It takes true discipline to hold back when everything inside you wants to react. It takes confidence to know that you do not need to explain yourself, argue, or seek validation from those who do not respect you. When you remain silent in the face of disrespect, it does not mean you are accepting it. It means you understand that some battles are not worth fighting. It means you recognize that not every situation deserves your energy. Weakness is allowing someone else to control your emotions. Strength is choosing when and how to respond on your own terms. There is power in knowing that you do not have to participate in every argument, especially when the other person has already made up their mind. People often mistake silence for submission, but in reality, silence is often a louder statement than words. It says, I refuse to engage in this negativity. I refuse to let you pull me down to your level. I refuse to waste my time explaining myself to someone who is committed to misunderstanding me. That kind of strength is something not everyone possesses. Most people feel the need to defend themselves immediately, to prove their point, to make the other person see their side. But those who understand the value of silence know that words are not always the answer. Walking away from an argument, refusing to engage with someone who has disrespected you, and choosing peace over conflict are signs of wisdom. It means you see the bigger picture. It means you understand that not every insult or criticism deserves a response. There is wisdom in knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. People who truly value themselves do not waste time trying to convince others of their worth. They know that their energy is precious, and they refuse to waste it on those who do not appreciate it. It takes incredible strength to remain calm when someone is trying to provoke you. Many people believe that the loudest voice in the room is the most powerful, but real power is found in the one who does not need to raise their voice at all. There is something about a person who remains unbothered in the face of disrespect that shakes people. It forces them to question their actions. It makes them wonder why their words did not get a reaction. That kind of control over your own emotions is something that people who thrive on drama cannot stand. Choosing silence is not about avoiding confrontation. It is about choosing your battles wisely. Some people want an argument, not a resolution. They want conflict, not understanding. They are not looking for an honest discussion. They are looking for control. When you refuse to engage, you take that control away from them. You do not give them the satisfaction of knowing they got to you. You do not allow them to manipulate your emotions. That is not weakness, that is wisdom. People who lack self-control believe that reacting to everything is a sign of strength. But true strength is being able to walk away when necessary. It takes maturity to understand that not everything needs a response. It takes wisdom to know that silence can often speak louder than words. Some people will never understand your worth, no matter how much you explain it to them. That is why silence is not just powerful, it is necessary. When you stop explaining yourself, people start to feel the weight of their own actions. They begin to realize that they no longer have access to your energy, your time, or your patience. Some people expect you to justify yourself, to defend your choices, to argue back and forth with them. They expect you to engage because that's what they are used to. They thrive on your explanations because it keeps them in control of the situation. The moment you take that away, the dynamic shifts. They are left with nothing but their own words and actions, and that is when they start to crumble. People will say and do things just to get a reaction out of you. They will push your buttons, challenge your boundaries, and test your patience because they want to see if they still have power over you. They want to keep you explaining, keep you reacting, keep you engaged. But when you stop explaining, when you stop giving them the emotional response they were hoping for, they are forced to sit with their own behavior. They no longer have a way to deflect, manipulate, or control the situation. The moment you stop explaining yourself, people start feeling the silence. That silence is heavy. It makes them uncomfortable. It forces them to replay the situation in their minds, to wonder why you didn't respond the way they expected. They start to realize that you are no longer willing to entertain their nonsense. They start to feel the absence of your energy, and that absence speaks louder than any explanation ever could. There is something about a person who no longer feels the need to justify themselves that unsettles people. It shows confidence. It shows self-assurance. It shows that you are so secure in yourself that you do not need anyone's approval. That kind of energy is intimidating to those who rely on your reactions. They don't know how to handle it. They don't know what to do when you simply refuse to engage. That's when they start second-guessing themselves. People often mistake your willingness to explain for a sign of weakness. They think that because you are explaining yourself, you are seeking their approval. They believe that as long as they can keep you talking, they still have a hold on you. But when you stop explaining, they are forced to face a new reality. One where their words no longer have power over you. One where they are left with nothing but themselves. When someone is used to controlling the conversation, they panic when you stop playing along. They become desperate for a reaction. They will try harder to provoke you, to pull you back in, to get you to explain yourself one more time. But the more you remain silent, the more they unravel. Their tactics stop working, their power starts to slip, and they begin to feel the full effect of your absence. Not everyone deserves an explanation. Not everyone deserves access to your thoughts, your emotions, or your time. Some people argue not because they want to understand, but because they want to control. When you stop explaining, you take that control away from them. You force them to sit with the weight of their own actions, to deal with the consequences of how they treated you. And that is when they start to realize that they no longer have a hold on you.